Living in Virginia, you're in the fast lane on the information superhighway. We've invested $3 billion in Virginia's broadband network to give you one of the fastest internet connection speeds in the world, so you can build relationships, bring new business to our state, and meet the future of education. It's amazing what we can do together. Visit VCTA.com to learn how broadband connects the Commonwealth.
From the General Assembly and the City of Richmond, I'm Woody Evans for Cable Reports, brought to you by the VCTA Broadband Association, connecting Virginians to their government. We're pleased to have Erik Johnston here with us this morning. Erik is the Director of the Department of Housing and Community Development. That's a mouthful. So what do you do? What does your agency do?
Thank you, Woody, for having me. So we really are about being partners for better communities. We have a real broad mission on both affordable housing, reducing homelessness, working on community development projects such as water and wastewater, broadband deployment. We also have a new program we administer called Go Virginia, working with the business community on economic development and regional collaboration. We have some other efforts related to the Commission on Local Government, building codes. Building codes and fire codes are undergird the safety of our buildings and our resiliency to flooding and hurricanes. And then also have a historic mission in Southwest Virginia with the Appalachian Regional Commission and the Southwest Virginia Cultural Heritage Foundation. I'm sure many of your viewers have heard of the Crooked Road. We get the staff that and assist the region in their creative economy efforts that are really going really strongly. So we have a broad mission, but it's all at the undergirding of partnering with localities, businesses, and people and communities with different funding programs to really get at folks' vision for making their communities better.
Well, talk to us about your housing responsibilities. That's been highlighted over the past year, especially here in Richmond in terms of the high eviction rates that we have here, and obviously there's a dearth of housing for especially low-income people.
Governor Northam has made affordable housing one of his top priorities, and we're really honored at the agency to get to work on some of those new initiatives to, one, try to reduce the rate of evictions. The City of Richmond, other localities across the state have taken a lead role as well in trying to figure out ways to reduce the rate of evictions. We're also just seeing across the Commonwealth that there's not enough affordable housing at all price points to really make sure we have that robust infrastructure in place to help the economy and to help sure all types of workers, most low-income, vulnerable Virginians have safe, affordable housing. The governor has put forward a budget that would increase and make some historic investments in the Virginia Housing Trust Fund, which 80% of that goes to construction loans for single family and multifamily projects like Habitat for Humanity projects or big multifamily projects, and for instance focused on veterans in Northern Virginia that we've recently funded. That funding would go from $7 million to $30 million next year and $40 million in the second year of the biennium. Really historic investments to partner with localities, nonprofits, and the building and developer community to really make sure that we are incentivizing ensuring new developments have a piece of it that's really affordable, especially for the most vulnerable. So the other big piece of our mission is to reduce the rate of homelessness. Virginia has had a bipartisan effort and are really leading the nation in that area. Since 2010, we've reduced homelessness by 36% collectively at the local, regional, and state level, really focusing on rapidly rehousing those who are chronically homeless, our seniors, are those with serious mental illness or intellectual developmental disabilities. So the governor's budget with that housing trust fund has that component to help incentivize more affordable housing being constructed or rehabbed, but it also has 20% of that for homeless reduction grants that really help nonprofits and others and that work on homelessness to really work at rapidly rehousing folks and having the support services in place to make sure that we can help people successfully get back on their feet, because at any moment any of us could be in that situation, and really if there's the right infrastructure in place, we can really reduce and even in many cases eliminate homelessness. Virginia was the first state to functionally end veterans homelessness, so we have an infrastructure in place with the Health and Human Resource agencies, veterans, state and federal agencies that really are working collaboratively to make sure that we lead in making sure our most vulnerable Virginians have a structure in place to get back on their feet. And so we're really proud of that historic budget, and our team is really conveners to make sure we use the federal and state taxpayer resources, we steward those most effectively to really get it better outcomes.
I guess you've got a big challenge in Northern Virginia. It's great that Amazon is there, but I understand that there's a lack of housing there as well.
Yeah, Northern Virginia's economy is definitely so strong and diversifying, and the Amazon locating in Alexandria and Arlington is really an exciting thing for the Commonwealth. I'm really proud that Governor Northam, Secretary Ball, his Secretary of Commerce and Trade, really, as they looked at that incentive deal, really brought in as well affordable housing to that mix. And so there's $75 million over 5 years that's focused in as those new jobs are being created, and they're very high-paying jobs that low-income working families in that area are some of that housing that's affordable is preserved so that those Virginians do not get displaced. And so there's a large local effort going on, multi-regional effort in Northern Virginia with our partners in Maryland and DC. But yes, it is a challenge. It's a with that job growth, you really have to have the state, federal government, and local governments working together to create more affordable housing.
And of course, those partnerships are very important, and the governor has an initiative, an exchange program. Talk to us about that.
Thanks for asking about that. That's one of the things that we get most excited about at our agency is we are really privileged to drive across the whole Commonwealth, from Accomack County on the eastern shore to Lee County at the very tip of Southwest Virginia. We see that there are so many challenges facing communities across the state. There's many different challenges, but also many commonalities on the kind of bread and butter issues that people are trying to solve, whether it's infrastructure or downtown revitalization, etc. Governor Northam announced last week the Virginia Local Government Exchange Program. It's modeled after Dwight Eisenhower's Sister Cities International, and really, there's so much that divides us in today's politics, and we have such a large state that the governor really saw a need to bring together local government officials, state elected officials, and some of the members of their community to just go on visits to learn about the challenges that we're facing in different parts of the state, to build coalitions and kind of, in today's more polarized world, bring some more partnerships, because there's more that brings us together than apart. The partner original localities are for this pilot are the city of Danville and also Loudoun County, and so they have already begun to think about that exchange and when they'll go to Danville and when they'll go to Loudoun. And then Wise County and the city of Norton in Southwest Virginia are partnering with the city of Alexandria. So they're really, it was the governor had them for the launch of that program last week, and it was exciting to hear the mayor of Norton, the mayor of Alexandria talk about some of their very different challenges, but some of the same challenges they're facing on downtown work and different items on economic development. So we're really excited about that, and our agency is just helping to facilitate that partnership with the governor's office.
So we've got a mix of urban and rural. We've got a mix of more high income and more low income areas of the state. So that'll be a great learning experience for those people.
Absolutely. It's definitely bringing large geographies together. I mean, you can be in Southwest Virginia and be closer to multiple other state capitals than Richmond, and vice versa. In Alexandria, you're really connected up there to the Metro DC region. So it's exciting to see that kind of large partnership. And to be honest with you, that we are impressed to know from our work in both communities how they're really, in all five, doing some things as local governments and with their business community and nonprofits to be examples of the best of what you can do when you vision a better future. So we brought together some great initial pilots, and we hope to expand it long term.
And that fits hand in hand with the other initiative that's a few years old, and that's Go Virginia. Talk to us about its inception and what's going on now with it.
Absolutely. So the Go Virginia initiative basically grew out of the business community partnering with state government to say, hey, we really want to diversify our economy and really want to get away from an economic development strategy where localities are pitted against each other, and bring us together to collaborate to just diversify and expand the Virginia economy. So instead of this is a business-led initiative, the majority of the councils, there's 9 councils across the state, are business leaders, but they also include higher education, K-12, all of the different workforce sectors, business startup experts, R&D, research and development experts. So that effort is really 3 years old in terms of being set up, but 2 years old in starting to fund projects across the Commonwealth where it has to be a partnership between 2 local governments, and it's working on workforce development, site development, and to create higher paying jobs for every region of the state. We've had amazing results in the first 2 years of over 60 projects, over 10,000 jobs that will be created out of these collaborations. And most exciting, to be candid with you, is in regions where there had not been collaboration on economic development, the incentives of these state dollars matched with local and business dollars are creating new partnerships that are really focused on the best opportunity in each region to expand their economy on the parts of their economic development engine that have the best potential for growth and higher paying jobs. I know that's important to all communities to have those good higher paying jobs that you can raise a family on. That initiative is trying to be a spark plug for that.
Talk to us about some of those success stories.
Absolutely. So one example I like to share is the Ignite Internships program in Southwest Virginia. That initiative, that's in Region 1, and that partnership is, the staff there is led by UVA-Wise, one of the key institutions in Southwest Virginia. They really focused with United Way on making sure that they had an internship program that was connecting their high school students to the higher paying in-demand jobs in the region. And they had a challenge of folks leaving the region for young K-12. The education investments are some of the biggest investments that Southwest Virginia makes, and there's amazing schools in Southwest Virginia. But a lot of those recent graduates were leaving to maybe Northern Virginia, maybe somewhere else in a larger city. But there are many high-paying jobs in demand in that region, and part of it they found was trying to connect and get internships to those employers that were involved with this initiative to say, hey, if you stay here, this is your pathway to this success in the manufacturing sector. This is your pathway to the new solar energy work that's going on in Southwest. So that's a really exciting partnership that's been an example of workforce and working to really show people a path, and not always just a college degree, but higher paying jobs with key skills.
So do you work with many of our community colleges in terms of those types of workforce development?
Absolutely, and that's one of the exciting things about the workforce projects through this initiative is that they're starting at the end with what are the jobs the business community has right now that are higher paying, that are opportunities, and working with higher ed, community college, higher ed, both community college and our four-year institutions, and then also starting even in the middle school for some of these projects to really show people in the region, what's a pathway that's going to be successful, and what are your options. So community college has been a major player in that, but along with many of these projects like Ignite, really showing the pathway all the way from upper middle school through even your 2-year and 4-year institutions for the multiple parts of a sector that really has potential in the region.
Are there any other examples of that in terms of private businesses that are partnering with either K through 12 or community colleges? Absolutely.
So there are multiple examples in nearly every one of the Go Virginia regions. Another one I'd throw out as an innovative model is GoTech. and that is in Southside. So the Institute for Advanced Learning and Research centered there is partnered with community colleges, middle schools, nearly every school division in the region, and they are really focused on getting equipment and different types of training in the middle schools, all the way up through dual learning, dual enrollment programs into high school and into the 2-year community colleges to look at those higher paying jobs across the region. They're partnering with business in each of those regions. The key to the success is that they don't start with the training and offer it. They start with what are the in-demand, high-paying jobs in the region. They have to be high-paying. They have to be higher than the annual salaries there in that region. And so that initiative has really garnered a lot of attention. There's a new one too recently between Loudoun County and the city of Chesapeake that's been a larger regional effort looking at computer science and looking at the employers that need computer science graduates and them saying, hey, we really got to look in middle school to start there. But many of the efforts also focus on our adults and retraining, recertifications where maybe an industry left, but there's now a new industry in welding or machining. There's so many welding jobs in the Hampton Roads area with all of the shipbuilding that's really going on there. So it's seeing different models in different regions, but the outcome based on a pathway to a higher paying job is really the focus.
Any examples of this in the area of cybersecurity, for example? Because I understand our community colleges now offer a 2-year certificated course in cybersecurity. Absolutely.
So each of the regions picks, based on data and research, what are the top opportunities. And IT, computer science has been, and then also as a segment of that, cybersecurity has been a focus across the state. We've seen in the Shenandoah Valley project where they were really creating some training for skills in cybersecurity and trying to create a cluster of cybersecurity industry there. Northern Virginia has been a large, several of their workforce projects have done a lot of work in the cyber space, and we know that there's thousands of jobs open in that sector if we get folks certified. So yes, IT and cyber has been something looked at across the regions, and you asked cyber, but another big piece which we're really proud of is our partnership with the Virginia Economic Development Partnership. They're really looking at site readiness and making sure we have enough sites for advanced manufacturing and new industries that move into Virginia. So we have some new efforts and some great examples of the old way of kind of site development was one county or city develops a site, gets it ready, and then kind of goes about it by themselves. We have now created with incentives through Go Virginia some new regional industrial facility authorities, so economic development partnerships where localities share revenue, share effort, and go after the best site strategically for a region. Because we know people drive across the region to work. It's not only, the workforce doesn't come from one locality, and they share in the benefits collectively. So VEDP, our economic development agency, is top-notch. They've got some of the best intelligence on economic development, site readiness, and where we have the best potential. And the regions are going out there and trying to fund those top sites. So an example would be that in Maymack and Greenville County, south of here in Richmond, partnering with multiple localities around them to develop one of the major mega sites in the Commonwealth to attract some major employers.
I take it that's a fairly long-term project and pretty detailed. What does one have to do to actually develop a site? There's a lot of infrastructure that has to go into that.
Absolutely. It is a long-term strategy, but part first is really inventorying the available land and then starting to get all the utilities, broadband to the site and really making sure it's in proximity to the major transportation information, logistics you need, et cetera. But we have that data, some of the best in the nation in terms of what sites in Virginia would be most competitive. And then from there, the state and the localities and VDP are partnering to say, hey, we want to invest in sites. The governor has some new money in his budget for both VDP, which is very exciting on sites, and then we also have, through Go Virginia, the regions have flexibility to fund site development to create those next generation jobs.
So your agency touches on other cabinet members. You have to coordinate and collaborate with them. Transportation, for example, health and human resources, all those agencies you have to deal with.
Absolutely. That's one of the most exciting parts of our job. And as community developers, really you look at the end outcome and then you partner, even if you don't have the resource at your agency, you partner with other folks together to get the outcome communities are working on. One of our most exciting partnerships is on housing and health. So, health, where you live, determines so much of your health, whether you have a mold in your house, whether you have lead-based paint in your home, whether you have housing that's there for the most vulnerable Virginians who might have serious mental illness and need some support services to be successful in their housing. We have a great partnership. Secretary Ball of Commerce and Trade and Secretary Carey of Health and Human Resources are really partnering and have, under Governor Northam, have all of us in the housing space and in the health space, whether it be Department of Behavioral Health, our Medicaid agency, DMAS, getting it all linked together, because at the end of the day, all the government programs can be confusing as even someone who works in state government, but our job, we view, is to make it simple at the end result for this Virginians we're trying to serve. So housing and health is when we're really in the governor's housing investments. He's also investing not just in the bricks and mortar of making sure everyone has more access to affordable housing, but funding some of the health and human resource agencies to have some rent subsidies and supportive services to make sure the most vulnerable Virginians have successful outcomes.
Now, I understand your agency is also responsible for administering the Virginia Telecommunications Initiative. Can you talk to us a little bit about that?
Absolutely. That's the Virginia Telecommunications Initiative is the Commonwealth's last mile broadband program. So we have estimated around 550,000 Virginians that don't have access to high-speed broadband, and as everyone knows, without that, kids that live in a community don't have the same access to education that those who do have broadband. Families don't have the same access to health. Our economy doesn't have the same opportunities. So the Last Mile Broadband program grew out of a partnership with the internet service providers and the local governments coming together and saying, we believe that with small incentive, we can match with local and private dollars to do the construction costs to go to places where there's less density, where there's less people. It's a lot more expensive to bring broadband, whether it's wireless, whether it's cable, whether it's whatever type that's high speed. There was a coalition that came together and said, we really believe and think in Virginia we can make a difference in providing that last mile. It's a one-time cost for the state, long-term, huge benefit for people's lives and for our economy. So these are basically grants that go to local governments, pass through to the private sector, internet service providers. And if you're interested in understanding more about that program, go to dhcd.virginia.gov. We have a whole section on there about community broadband planning resources and how Virginians can get involved with their localities and providers and partnering. We really appreciate that partnership. And that program has grown from $1 million a couple years ago to the governor proposing $35 million each year in his introduced budget. Last year we had $19 million available. We received $43 million in requests. And so we're just seeing this program expand. We're getting the dollars out about 6 to 1 more efficiently than some of the federal programs. So we really believe we can get these projects built in a year once they're awarded. And I can tell you from the calls we get at the agency, that is one of the most popular things that folks are calling, saying, hey, how do we take advantage of this program to make sure we can partner? And a lot of times people are willing to bring their own community sweat equity to the table to get it done. If I could tell you just one example, in Bland County, I had the privilege of going there with their county government and their internet service provider, and they they were so hungry for broadband that they partnered, a local farmer offered up his mountaintop for one of the towers free of charge, as long as he got some internet allowed with it, and then also crews that work together to clear and get that wireless broadband to over 300 folks, and then from there they have a plan to get it countywide. We have great examples. The governor was in Charles City County with a fiber project. One of your members, a cable company that's really working at getting Charles City County universal broadband. So it's a program that works for different technologies, and it really sparks some energy from Virginians who are really hungry to make sure that they have the same modern infrastructure that people expect these days.
So this is separate and apart and in addition to what the Tobacco Commission does in terms of broadband?
So the Tobacco Commission is a key partner of ours, along with the Center for Innovation Technology, and so it is separate. The Tobacco Commission, for your viewers that aren't familiar with it, is really Southside, Southwest Virginia, and they have some funding available to this very similar last mile program. The Virginia Telecommunication Initiative is available statewide, and we have the governor from the Eastern Shore is very familiar with hearing from the lack of access on the Eastern Shore to there are pockets of Loudoun County. There are pockets of nearly every county in Virginia that have holes where Virginians don't have access to modern infrastructure. So we want to be one of the first states to really have ubiquitous broadband coverage. And yes, the Tobacco Commission funding along with VADI, we're working in partnership to get those dollars out.
About a minute and a half left. I want to give you an opportunity to talk about some environmental issues in terms of building codes. I know there are these LEEDs buildings around the state. Talk to us about what that means and what the administration is doing in terms of improving the environment through building codes.
Absolutely. So the building codes are locally administered through local governments, but at DHCD we are proud of the regulatory process we have to get input from across the state, from the different stakeholders on the rules for construction, both residential, commercial, and yes, energy efficiency and green building have become one of the biggest topics in the building code space. Last cycle, there were many improvements on better energy efficiency, duct testing, different things to make sure that we're really ensuring our buildings are some of the most energy efficient in the world. There's a debate as we're speaking right now about the next code cycle and the next building codes for the newest generation buildings. The administration has been very forward-thinking in trying to make sure that we improve energy efficiency, improve renewable energy production, and so we're working with stakeholders now to consider all the different ideas to keep advancing the ball to increase energy efficiency.
Well, great. Thank you for being here, Erik Johnston. Good luck in housing and in community development.
Thank you so much. Appreciate being with you.
Thank you for watching Cable Reports, brought to you by the VCTA Broadband Association. Until next time, I'm Woody Evans. Mm-hmm.